Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi, and today we are going to take a look at a couple items from the new Chanel Fall or Autumn Winter 2023 collection, as well as some new shades of the new Dior Rouge Forever lipstick. So the lipstick itself is not new. It came out last year, I believe, but they have released some new shades. So we're going to look at those. And let's start off with the Chanel items. So I have to say this year's collection, the inspiration is the autumn equinox. And apparently autumn is Coco Chanel's or was Coco Chanel's favorite season. So that's kind of where the theme is. So we're looking at warm autumnal tones for this season, which, they're not my favorite tones on me. So I didn't pick up too much, but I did pick up this blush. So this blush retails for $65. It comes in two different colors. This one here is $7.98 beige rosé, a mauve, and the other one is a coral, a beige and coral. So this one here, let's go ahead and swatch this, but you can see you have this like leaf print in the background. I think it's really pretty. I'm trying to isolate these shades, but honestly, you really can't. Here's the mauve. There's kind of the peach on its own, but it does have some edges of the mauve. So really, you're just going to kind of use these together, and this is what you're going to get. When you touch it with your fingers and you swatch it, it actually does have a creamy texture to it once you put that on, when you get enough product on your finger. But, it's definitely creamier in texture than their current blushes in the permanent range. But I wouldn't say it's an ultra creamy blush. It feels like it's a nice powder blush. Definitely feels better than those in the permanent line. So I picked up this, and we'll talk about details of this in a minute when we go through the application demos. But they also released some new shades of the Rouge Coco Bloom. Wasn't interested in any of those, so I didn't pick those up. We have a couple new nail polishes, and then we have these new it's the Ombre Premier Libre loose eyeshadows. So these are the first loose powder eyeshadows from Chanel. We have kind of this gradient here. It goes from translucent to more of a black deep gray. And, this is the color of the product inside. So I have to say, I was looking at swatches online to figure out what I wanted to get. This is number 414, which I thought was more of a charcoal gray with some like plum mauve tones in it. It's really pretty much a grayish black. You can see a little bit of these purpley hues in here, but not really. So when I'm blending this out with my finger, I can actually feel the powder fibers. So it actually feels a little gritty to touch. And it does make a mess. So I would recommend putting this on before the rest of your makeup. And we'll talk about the details of this, but it's supposed to kind of start off as a powder, and when you blend it in, turn more into a creamier finish to give you a satin sheen on the lids. So you can see when you swipe it on with the applicator, which is the recommended form of application, you can see that it's not totally even because you have, the disbursement of powders is not even. So you do kind of need to smooth that out. But you do get quite a bit of fallout with this. So I just want to show you the applicator on this one more time up close. So this is the applicator. This is all loose powder on here. But when you pull it out, I'm not sure if you can really tell because I have such a deep shade here. It's all over this top part of the lid, the ring. So it's also along the edges here. So closing it and opening it, I typically get a ring of the powder around my hand where I'm gripping it. It's messy. There's definitely fallout from the applicator, just picking it up out of there before I go to tap it off on my cloth and so forth, get some on my face. So it's messy. So just beware of that. Use it with that in mind. So before we move on to the Dior lipsticks, we're going to take a look at some demos for these Chanel products. We also have some blush comparisons, and then we'll move on to the Dior lipsticks, and we'll do some comparisons and so forth with those as well. So let's start off with the blush. In the cheek demos that you're going to see, I built up the blush so you can really see the color. It builds up very easily. You can get to a deeper, more intense shade fairly quickly, and I've used 3 different brushes between these different application videos here. So on the first side, we're using one of the Chikuhodo Zen brushes, which is fox hair. So that's going to give you more of a lighter wash of color. We've also got the classic cheek from Sonia G in the Sky series, which is undyed goat hair. It's a little bit firmer and more dense. And then the last demo, you'll see the new classic cheek from the Fundamentals set, which has a blend of dyed and undyed goat hair fibers. And it's a little bit wispier. Now, this particular blush is called Chanel Douceur d'Equinox, or of the Equinox. We have 0.31 ounces for $65 US. So that's 9 grams of product. Again, I have shade 798 Beige Rosé, a mauve. And it does come with one of those little half moon brushes. So I'll show you that in a minute. We have an 18-month shelf life, and this is made in France. Overall, I think it's a really nice blush. I think it is very pretty. We definitely have more of a mauve tone here. And according to Chanel, it pairs an intense shade with a delicate shade, calling to mind the contrast of color and light that are characteristic of the autumnal equinox. Soft, warm tones accentuate the cheekbones and add radiance to the complexion for a natural-looking, healthy glow and luminous finish. There are double C's on the actual blush, as well as the leaf pattern as a tribute to Coco Chanel and her favorite season, which is autumn. So overall, though, I'd have to say I think it's a nice blush. I don't personally find it to be a must-have. It's nice to see, you know, a slightly different tone than what we've been seeing a lot from Chanel. I'm glad that this builds up very quickly. You can get a deeper color. It's definitely a nice shade. I think it's really gorgeous. You know, the actual embossing and so forth on there. The formula feels, it's a nice formula. So, you know, it feels like a traditional powder blush when you put it on with a brush. But if you go on, use your fingers, you definitely get a bit of a creamier texture there. I just don't find it to be anything particularly special. However, I think it's a really nice product. And if you're in the market for a blush in this shade, I think this is definitely one worth looking at. You know, $65 for the Chanel blushes, 9 grams of product here. I think that's actually fairly priced considering some of the other products that we are seeing coming out of Chanel relatively soon. Even if you're not necessarily looking at, you know, how many grams of product you're getting. If you're looking at how much use you would get out of that, I think this one seems fairly reasonable for me in that particular case. I would definitely use this more than those oversized highlighters that are coming out very soon. So I have heard those are going to be around the beginning of September. So stay tuned for those, as well as the other palettes, the eyeshadow quads. So, you know, I think overall, this is a nice blush. This is my favorite piece of the collection that I picked up. Again, I only picked up those 2 items, but I definitely think this would be worth it. I would purchase the blush again. However, it's not going to be a favorite blush in my collection. Now, let me just go ahead and show you the Half Moon blush that it comes in and the box. So this is a box. You've got this beautiful, you know, leaf print design on here that shows you the colors in here. So we have the mauve and we have that peach for the double C's. I think that's a nice touch. I know some people like to collect the boxes, so I did get mine dirty swirling it, but this comes with a little plastic lid here, and then we have the curved demi-lume brush here. We do have a mirror here, so again, our Half Moon brush. And yeah, I would have to say overall, this is a nice product. I'd pick that up again. However, moving on to the loose eyeshadow, this was a sort of a fail for me. Now, I have to say I was a little bit wary of these. So I only picked up one. I was actually going to pick up, you know, 2 or 3 of these originally, but the colors just really didn't call to me because they are all very warm shades. So looking at the swatch again, you can see how much powder dust there is. I mean, just look at my hand here from just picking this up now. Like you can see little bits of powder and, you know, it's just messy. So I don't love that. even on the eyes, putting it on, and I'm showing you these demos here. I use the applicator. I tried using my fingers. I've used different brushes. I want to try and make it a little lighter. For the look that I'm wearing right now, I have it actually mixed with one of the Chanel Monos from a couple holidays ago. It's 926 or Blanc in the Ombre Premiere line. And, you know, I think this shade in particular, because it is so deep, for me, it works better mixing it with another shade. But just the formula of this powder eyeshadow, I don't love it. You know, it's not as finely milled as I would like. According to Chanel, there are 6 shades in this. They retail for $40 US. It's the first loose eyeshadow, and we have warm colors for the fall equinox. It's composed of pearlescent and intense pigments. It offers a deep, vibrant color with a satin sheen. And this is the part that I disagree with here. It's light and powdery. The texture is as fine as a puff of dust, becoming creamy upon application for a smooth finish. And it's supposed to last about 8 hours. I don't really see that. I think dust is a lot finer than this is. I can feel some grittiness in the texture here. It's not as finely milled as I would expect. And especially if you're expecting it to become creamy upon application, in order for a powder to get to that creamy texture, it needs to be a lot finer of a mill there. So it has to be more finely milled than it actually is in this case. So it doesn't really become creamy. Now, I know sometimes these deeper shades, things with black pigments, can be a little bit drier in texture. And that could be true with this as well. But speaking of this particular shade, it does make the actual particles a little bit bigger than expected and a little bit grittier and drier than I would expect based on this description. So I am disappointed with that. Now, the actual fallout and application, I could deal with that, you know, provided that it really smoothed out nicely. I was looking for a nice buttery blend, and it's not that. I think if I had a lighter shade, more of like a champagne shade, maybe that wouldn't be as noticeable. But working with a deeper shade, you can really see how patchy it can be. You really want to layer this on. And if you're looking for like a black or dark gray shade that you can kind of buff out and get more of an ombre look, this really isn't that. This is going to look best if you have it applied with a deeper, deeper expression of pigment. So overall, I would have to say this particular product here, I think, is a fail. I think I would have liked it better in a lighter color. However, I still don't think I would have loved it, just because I don't think it is as fine as it should be. I don't love the actual packaging and how messy it actually is. So I'm glad that I ended up only picking up one. And as I mentioned, the color here is a little bit misleading as well. Online, it did look like it was going to be slightly lighter than it actually is. And it looked like you would see a little bit more plum gray. This is more plum black. And yeah, it's just, it's okay. But I think on my eyes, it looks more black and you don't really notice much of the plum. So yeah, I don't love it. I think for application for this, if you want to get something more like this swatch here on my arm, what you really want to do is put a pile of the powder on, a plate or the back of your hand, or even the brush, and kind of work it into that before you apply it to your eye, if you really want to get more of this smoother, buffed out look. But going directly in on the eye, you're not really going to be able to get that without making a huge mess. And I'm not talking about just fallout, but just the amount of surface area you're going to need. You're definitely going to have to, in my opinion, extend past your eyelid quite a bit just to be able to smooth that out enough. And yeah, so this is just kind of a fail for me. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some comparisons for the blush, and then we'll move on to the Dior Rouge Forever shades. So one more time for the swatches here, and you can see this definitely looks a bit more plum here than it does on my eye. So I think it's a nice shade. I'd like it to be perhaps a slightly lighter, and I would love to see this shade in a different formula from Chanel, but I don't love it in the loose powder. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just swatch this blush one more time. And we're gonna just swatch it right down here for our comparisons. So we can put our comparisons over here. And let's go ahead and take a look. We've got quite a few that I thought we would look at. And some of them, I can't say that I have a dupe for this. So, but hopefully if you have some of these shades, you can get an idea of how they compare. So we're going to start off with this Hermes. This is one of the newer Hermes ones that have a little bit of shimmer. This is 58 Rose Cuivre. And this is not going to be as mauve tone. You can see it's definitely going to be warmer and peachier. But it was my closest match in the Hermes blushes, which kind of surprised me. I thought Rose Feu might be a close match, but that is actually much more red. And then I wanted to take a look at just a couple of the Armani. These are the Neo Nude cream blushes. So this is 52, which is a pink. And then I wanted to take a look at 50, which is more of a mauvey plum shade. And you can see that this is going to be lighter, but it does have a similar tone. The Chanel has a bit more red in there, and it's going to be deeper. But I do think that they are a worthy comparison there. Now, a couple of the Armani powder, the luminous silk blushes. This is 61. This is going to be more red. And then we have 51. This is really more of a true pink, but this was a requested comparison, so I wanted to include that. You can see it's definitely more of a soft true pink there. And then we also have 60. And this one here, in my opinion, is going to be your closest. It has a little bit more red than the Chanel. Let me extend the Chanel swatch. All right, so let's just bring the Chanel down a bit more. You can see the Chanel has a bit more mauve in it, and the Armani in number 60 has more red. They both have a touch of plum to them, but the Chanel is going to have more plum and mauve tones than the Armani. Next, I want to take a look at a couple of the Gucci shades. This one here is number 6, Warm Berry. And you can see that those actually are pretty close. Again, the Warm Berry is going to be a touch warmer. We've got a little bit more of a brick red undertone to that in comparison with the Chanel. And then I also want to take a look at number 5, Rosy Beige, which is my favorite from Gucci. And you can see how close those actually are. Now, Rosy Beige, I'll put this one, right here next to the biggest part of the swatch as well. You can see that this is essentially just slightly lighter, but the tone, the shade, is very much the same as Chanel. They're very, very close. So I would say those are definitely going to be your closest comparisons. Now, I wouldn't go as far as calling it a dupe, but it's close. Now, the Gucci is ever so slightly warmer in tone than the Chanel. The Chanel has just a touch more purple in it, and it's going to be a little bit deeper, but those are definitely going to be the closest. And overall, I think both shades are fantastic. I really like both products. All right, so just one more time, we'll take a look here at these. We've got the Hermes here in number 58, Rose Cuivre. The Armani cream blushes in 52 and 50. And then we moved on to the Armani, and we had 61, 51, and 60. And then we had the Gucci in number 6 and number 5. So let's move on to the new shades of the Dior Rouge Forever lipsticks. And these are going to be Dior's slim style, kind of velvet matte long wear lipstick. So these last a good time. So they have released new shades. I have a full video with wear tests and everything from when these came out. I'll leave that linked down below in the description box. I have quite a few of these. So this one here is 265 Hope. And let's go ahead and put this here. And you can see that one swipe is really all you need with these. I like to do 1 to 2 swipes and you're really going to get full impactful color. So this is 265 Hope, and you can see it's a light milky pink. It's a pretty neutral pink, but it definitely has that white concealer-ish base to it. So just something to note there. Next up, the one that I have on my lips is 670 Rose Blues, and this is a new favorite shade. I mean, look at this. It is a beautiful deep rose with blue undertones. It's kind of got a medium brightness to it. I think it is gorgeous. I have been waiting for a shade like this. I would love this in a satin. I've actually been wearing this one a lot, but I've been wearing it with gloss on top. I love it. Now, if you do wear gloss on top, and I have a wear test with the gloss on top to show you, that's going to act more like a long wear lipstick that will wear off. So it will come off by the end of the day. If you don't add any lip gloss or lip balm or anything to it, you can have, you know, great looking lips by the end of the day. You know, the pigmentation remains. They're not 100% transfer proof, but they're transfer resistant, I would say. So they perform really well. You know, you can get, you know, a full day's worth of wear with pretty much media, like little to no wear and tear on your lips if you do not top them with gloss or lip balm. If you top them with gloss or lip balm, your wear is going to be decreased. This is 780 Forever Lucky. And you can see this one is going to be a bit more of a brighter, more reddish tone than the Rose Blues. So we've got a little bit more red. It's got a little bit of a warmer tone, like a little bit more strawberry red mixed in there. And it's going to be a little deeper and brighter. So putting these side by side, you can really see the blue tone in the Rose Blues. So these are the 3 of the new shades that I picked up. Let's go ahead and take a look at the demos. The Dior Rouge Dior Forever lipsticks have 0.11 ounces or 3.2 grams, and they are made in France. Dior recommends not raising it more than 2 millimeters for application. If you're familiar with a lot of the velvet lipstick formulas and so forth, you know, they can be very, very soft because of the way that the pigments are. And so Dior has these in a slim style tube, which I think really helps support the lipstick and prevent breakage. So I think the design of that is great. The actual packaging of this, it's in a matte black tube, you know, which I love. You know, I love when they use the matte black packaging to show you that's a matte product inside. It helps me keep things separate. And then we have the Christian Dior belt in black on there. And yeah, I have to say overall, I think these lipsticks are really nice. They are pretty weightless on the lips. If you do have very dry lips, I wouldn't say that they exacerbate dryness, but if your lips are already dry, they're probably going to feel dry to you. If your lips are in good condition, you probably won't notice anything. And, you know, they perform well if you do top with a gloss or a balm. I find them very comfortable, but don't expect them to last all day that way. They will wear off. You know, you're looking more at like 5 or 6 hours versus 12 hours of wear. So just something to note there. But that is one of my favorite ways to wear them because I think that Dior has a really great color range. And, you know, I do really like satin finishes. So I think putting these on and then topping them with something is, you know, it's great because you can have matte if you want, or you can have a different finish. So I've been enjoying that. Now in the wear test that I'm showing you here, I have topped off the Rose Blues with the Lip Maximizer from Dior. This is one of the ones from spring last year. So before they redesigned the Lip Maximizers, it's shade 027, which is kind of this purple opal color. And the closest one in the new line is the shade Opal from Dior, which is close. It's just not quite as purple. Honestly, you don't notice that much of the purple with the 027 that I have, but I do really enjoy that one. And yeah, you can see how it performed. You can still see a little bit of color, but it's definitely faded quite a bit. And yeah, it's worn off, but it does wear off pretty evenly. So overall, I'd have to say, you know, this is a great product. I do really enjoy these lipsticks, and I think that these shades that they added were fantastic. Actually, this Rose Blues shade, I would love to have this in other finishes as well. It is just perfect. It is a new favorite shade for me. You know, I'm so happy to see shades like this coming back on the market. So let's do a few comparisons. So the first lip product that the Rose Blues actually made me think of is this from Cle de Peau. This is one of the Cream Rouge mattes. This is 120 in Currant. And I really like this shade as well. I use this one quite a bit. But you can see that it's going to be deeper, and it's also slightly more purpley, just a little bit, than the Rose Blues. So I did want to compare that one because it's the first thing that made me think of, but it's not super close. And then this one here from Tom Ford, these are the Liquid Lip Luxe Mattes. This is 125 Mind Blown, and another shade that is going to be similar. Now, this is going to be more of a liquid matte, very thin liquid texture that will dry. And again, you can see this is going to be a bit deeper, and it doesn't have, it's a little bit warmer. It doesn't have as much of that blue in it that the Dior does. So this would be Tom Ford and Mind Blown, another gorgeous shade. Now, this shade here, 265 Hope from Dior, the first thing that brought to mind is this Bobbi Brown Luxe lipstick in 309 Pale Mauve. They both have more of that like white base. You can see that Pale Mauve is actually going to be warmer, and the pink from the Dior is a little bit, it's got a little bit more blue in it. It's more of a true pink. The Pale Mauve, honestly, their naming is terribly off. It's really more pale peach. But yeah, you can see that difference. You can see that they both are going to have more of that whiter base to them, which, you know, there's a time and a place for that. So it may work well for some people, but for others, maybe it won't. So just something to know, there really is kind of that whiter base in those two shades. Now, a couple of others I wanted to look at. This is Valentino in 123R. And yeah, no, doesn't quite go with any of these. That was kind of my closest shade in Valentino. And then we have one of the Cle de Peau lipsticks. This is number 16, Erasumum, which is one of my favorites. But you can see that this is going to be warmer than Rose Blues. And it's going to be, you know, it's more pink. It's more of a warmer pink. Really gorgeous shade, though. It's one that I definitely love a lot. And then we also have one of the Dior Addicts in 536 Lucky. So since this one's called Forever Lucky, I just wanted to compare them. But you can see that Lucky is going to be warmer. It's brighter. It's a bit more neon flamingo pink. So just a comparison there. And then let's just take a look at the other Rouge Forever lipsticks I have. All right, so we're going to go in numerical order. And this one here is 100 Forever Nude. I'm going to do these vertically just so I can fit them all on here. So this is Forever Nude, and you can see that it is kind of a rosy nude. This is actually one of my most used. I really like this one. And then we have 300 Forever Nude Style, which is another gorgeous shade. This has a bit more brown in it. It's a little bit deeper. A really great fall shade. 505 Forever Sensual. This is going to be a bit warmer. You can see we've got golden hues in there. It's going to be a little bit lighter as well. It's about the same color depth as number 100, but this definitely has more of those golden beige tones in there. Again, it's another good fall shade there. We have 558 Forever Grace, which has a little bit more of a clay vibe mixed with some brick red in there. And again, fall shade. Most of the shades that I have from the original line were a lot of those more fall shades here. We have 732 Forever Vibrant, and this is a nice bright shade. It's more of a bright orange. I wouldn't even call it a coral. There's not quite enough pink in there to be coral. It's got a little bit more red in it than a true tangerine, but you can see that that is definitely a nice bright orange. So that's a great summer shade in my opinion. We have 742 Forever Sisterhood. Oh, and this one is actually broken. I bet my daughter was playing with one of these. But anyway, so here is this one again, 742 Forever Sisterhood. And a few of these shades are exclusive to the Dior website. This is a really great red. I think this is one of the ones that is exclusive to Dior, but I'd have to double check that. This is really a true neutral red. So there's not really too much warmth or coolness to it. And then the last one I have is 866 Forever Together. And this is going to be more of a brick burgundy red. So we've got a little bit of that brick tone, but a lot of times brick reds are pretty warm. This mixes a cooler tone burgundy with it, making it overall pretty neutral, leans ever so slightly. I have to say it's really pretty neutral. If I had to pick, it moves a little to the cooler side, but definitely still in the neutral range. So those are my Rouge Forever shades here. So we have these three and then all of these down here. So I hope this was helpful. Overall, in summation, I would have to say that the Chanel blush is a very nice product. That one I think is worth getting. They've got, it's gorgeous embossing. It's, the formula is nice. The colors are nice. So overall, I would say that's a winner. The loose powder eyeshadow, I personally think, it's just not done the way that I think would be best. So for me, it is a fail. I would pass on those. And the Dior Rouge Forever lipsticks, if you haven't tried those yet, I would definitely recommend them. Go with the shade that you like best. But out of the new shades that I picked up, definitely the 670 here is my favorite, the Rose Blues. It's a shade that, I've only had these for a little while. They came right before my trip, so I was able to play with them a little bit. But the Rose Blues is one that I've been wearing nonstop over the last week and a half. So yeah, really love that one. And let me know what you think of these collections, if you've tried any of these, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So please share them in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you very soon. Have a great day.